Well, hello, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me. So glad to have you tuning in today. And I know it's not Mother's Day, but I wanted to share some things about how to honor your mother. The Mother's Day holiday goes way back to 1907 when Anna Jarvis memorialized her mother and had a special service for her in a little church in Grafton, West Virginia. And then it took on the following year. And here we are 119 years later, still remembering our moms. In 1914, President Woodrow Wilson signed a bill designating the second Sunday of May as a legal holiday that we now call Mother's Day. And so thankful for Mother's Day, so thankful for mothers. Now, if you're live listening to me, it's because you had a mom. And I guess you could say it's one of the things we all have in common. All of us have a mom. But maybe you're asking the question, should I honor my mom? If I should, why should I honor my mom? Well, I love how God's word gets right to the point of the matter. Yes, you should honor your mother. You say, wait a minute. Is that just a blanket statement? Is it regardless of how my mom was or how she treated me? Or there's no qualifiers. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment, Ephesians 6:1. First commandment given as a promise, right? That life goes well with you and you live longer if you honor your mother and father. So it is a command that is given. Now, when I think about biblical moms, there's a lot of great biblical examples of moms that are still impacting us today. But before I get to that, did you give your mom a Mother's Day card this past Mother's Day, assuming your mom is still with us? Did you give her a gift? Did you call her? Did you reach out to her on Mother's Day? Well, a new survey found that only 1 in 6 Americans sent their mother a Mother's Day card this past Mother's Day. And they found out that where Mother's Day is kind of losing its significance. We're not as honoring as we should be of our moms. There's so many severed and broken relationships within the family now, and it's kind of concerning, right? When I saw this study, as you look at this, mothers, one study found when they have young children, spend 97 hours a week doing something relating to parenting and something related to care for, providing for their children, educating their children, taking care. 97 hours a week is what moms with young children are investing in their children. Unbelievable when you think about that. So just because of that investment, to me, that's a compelling reason to honor your mother. You say, wait a minute, my mom didn't do that for me. Well, you weren't old enough to remember what she did for you when you were a baby. And regardless, you're still to honor her. Well, let's look quickly at some of the biblical moms who are still impacting us today. The first would be Eve, the only sinless woman to walk the face of the earth. Now, she was a mom that understood disappointment because she was created perfectly from the rib of Adam. But she was involved in bringing sin, along with Adam, into all of humanity. So we learned from her, I believe, how to move past making really bad choices. You see, Adam and Eve ruined a perfect environment. In their defense, they had no role models. She had to look to God, no parenting books. In Genesis chapter 3, verse 20, it says, Adam named his wife Eve because she would be the mother of all living. But I think we find in Eve an example of God's grace for those who have fallen. You think about what Eve had to experience. She had to experience the pain of childbirth. She had to experience being the mother not only of the first child, but also the mother of the first murderer. Can you imagine the guilt that she felt? Well, we discover from Eve that she got past her disappointment. She got past her really bad choices, and she is an example of grace for those who have fallen. There's another amazing Bible example of a mother that is still impacting us today, and that is Naomi. And Naomi was the one of a mother of 2 sons. And Naomi was a Jewish woman, and she was married to a Jewish man. And unfortunately, they made a poor choice in that they decided to move because of a famine. But as a result of this move, they went to Moab, and And their two sons, both married Moabitess women, both the sons and the husband, while they're there in Moab, passed away. And so in spite of that, we discover that Naomi still encouraged her widowed daughters-in-law. She still cared about them. Ruth was greatly influenced by Naomi. So Boaz took Ruth and became his wife, and she gave birth to a son. Naomi teaches us how to love and to care. And she's going back to her hometown, and she's broken, she's bitter. And so Ruth goes back with her. And her other daughter-in-law, Orpah, decides to stay in Moab. But Ruth goes back with her, and we discover an amazing thing through the life of Ruth, that she becomes one of the, she becomes the person who the lineage of Christ comes through Ruth, right? Amazing, right? So we learn from her the love that a mother has, not only for her children, but also her expanded family, okay? And then there's Hannah. I love the story of Hannah. Every time I do a dedication service, a children's or a baby dedication service, I discover and I remember that Hannah longed to be a mother, but she was barren, and she prayed, and her story drives us to God during our times of barrenness. She teaches us to be persistent. Matter of fact, she prayed with such persistence that Eli, her husband, thought she was drunk. That's how fervently she was praying. Well, Hannah didn't back down. She was a woman who was deeply troubled, and so she said, I'm not drunk. I'm just praying that God will bless me, that God will make me a mom, and I'm so determined to ask God to bless me that I'm willing to give this child back to the Lord. What a wonderful example that is, realizing that little Samuel belonged to the Lord anyway. And so when God gave Hannah Samuel, she dedicated him to the Lord, gave him back to the Lord. That's why we dedicate our children to the Lord even to this day. So Hannah continues to influence us. And then there's Elizabeth. And from Elizabeth, I think we can learn the wonderful example of friends. And Elizabeth had a cousin named Mary, and Mary actually stayed with Elizabeth. We're talking about Mary, the earthly mother of Jesus, right? Both Mary and Elizabeth had supernatural experiences in regards to conceiving children. And in the case of Elizabeth, she was old, beyond childbearing age, and God was going to give her a son, John the Baptist, and he was going to be the forerunner of Christ. Well, when Elizabeth is carrying John the Baptist, Mary comes to visit and shares the news that she also is going to have a baby. And so Mary stays with Elizabeth for 3 months. And as soon as this sound of your greeting reached her ears, it says that the baby jumped in her womb. So what a wonderful relationship between Mary and Elizabeth. And I think that we learn from this the need of good friendship. And some of that friendship is found, obviously, in our family members. And so we learn that from Elizabeth. Then from Mary, I think we receive the understanding of sometimes in life, disruptions come our way. Unexpected things come our way. For the case of Mary, there was a disruption in her life in that she had this unexpected pregnancy. And as you look at this, God gives us his will, and we learn that Mary trusted God's plan over her own. Yeah, even though it was going to be difficult because she was going to be wrongly accused of having a relationship with Joseph before being married to him. And she knew that was not true. Joseph knew that was not true. But can you imagine trying to convince the community and your family that that's not true? So we learn from Mary that God can be with us even in our times of disruption. So let's quickly look at why we should honor our mothers. Number one, I would say because of the amazing legacy that she gives us. Now, again, this may not be the ideal. You may not have this. And if you don't, what I would encourage you as you listen to this broadcast, I always tell people if you haven't been given something that you really need in life, well, why don't you find what that is and give it to somebody else? Let's say that you have never been a person that had a whole lot of money. Well, why don't you ask God to bless you so that you can be a blessing with others and give them a legacy that you did not have? Well, we honor our mothers because of their legacy. In 2 Timothy chapter 1, Paul says, I'm reminded of your sincere faith, talking to Timothy, which was first found in your grandmother Lois and in your mother Eunice, and I'm persuaded now lives in you. Now, let me ask you a question. When people remember you, will they remember your sincere faith? On the back of the tombstone of my dad, because I'm the oldest son, not the oldest child, as I'm the third oldest, but the oldest son. And so I was asked about, well, what are we going to put on this tombstone? We can't put a whole lot, obviously, on. You only have a limited amount of space. And I said, when I think of my dad, I think about three things. He lived, three words, he lived by faith. And so on the back of his tombstone, lived by faith, right? If you live by faith, you can die by faith. So when people ask you about your faith, would they say you are sincere in your faith? Would they say that you lived by faith? Would they look at your life and say there's something different about you and how you lived your life? I want to tell you a quick story. And I know that all of you are, or most of you are probably aware of Augustine. Well, Augustine, or Augustine, depending how you pronounce it or choose to pronounce it, I think both are acceptable. Augustine was an infidel. He was running from God, but he had a mom who loved the Lord. At the age of 16, Augustine ran away. He was running from his mom, Monica, and he was sailing to Rome, leaving her alone, leaving her filled with tears. He was running from God, running from his family. So she prayed. Her prayers were answered, but not in the way that she had hoped at the time. Only later would she see that the praying that she prayed gave her the deepest joy that she could ever imagine. Here are the words of Augustine himself in regards to his mother's prayer for him. And what did she beg of you, my God, with all those tears? If not that you would prevent me from sailing, but you did not do as she asked. So she prayed, Lord, just stop him. Don't let him get on that boat. Don't let him get on that ship. In the depth of your wisdom, you granted the wish that was closest to her heart. For you saw that you had granted for her something far more than she had asked for. You converted me to yourself, so that I no longer placed any hope in this world, but stood firmly upon the rule of faith. And you turned her sadness into rejoicing, into joy far fuller than her deepest wish, far sweeter than any she had hoped for. Augustine says, my mom prayed I wouldn't get on that boat, but you had a deeper and a more joyful response to that prayer. You converted me. On that ship, he came to a saving knowledge of Christ. Now, I think about that. My parents often said to us, there's 7 of us kids in my family, and they would say, I'd rather have you living across the country or across the world in God's will than across the street from us out of God's will. Now, every parent wants to have their children nearby them as they get older because that way the grandchildren are close. But it's more important that your children be in the center of God's will. So we honor our moms because of her legacy. Number 2, we honor her because of her lessons, what she has taught us. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 14 and 15. But as for you, continue in what you have learned, in what you have become convinced of, because you know from those whom you learned it, and how from infancy you have known the Holy Scriptures, which are able to make you wise for salvation through faith in Jesus Christ. So here Paul says, honor your mother because the lessons that she has taught you. Continue on what she has taught you. So Timothy was considered wise by the Apostle Paul because he was taught the Scriptures from a very young age. You can avoid a lot of problems in life if you listen to what mom taught you when you're young. You look at this relationship, right? this teaching, these lessons, they were continued. These lessons that he learned as a child, they were continuous lessons. They kept growing in those lessons. It says that Timothy was convinced that the scriptures were true. He was convinced because he saw them lived out in his mother and his grandmother. And he was confirmed that he believed the scriptures because he was wise. Now, when you think about this, you know, the vast majority of American Christians were raised in the faith. And most can point to the influence of their moms. A 2023 study by the American Bible Society found that a majority of believers remain in the same religious tradition as their mothers. Amazing. 71% of teenagers read the Bible today because their mothers read their Bibles. 70% of Christian teenagers pray today because their mothers prayed. Amazing when you think about it. So we honor our mothers because of her legacy, the lessons that she taught us. And then number 3, we honor her because of her love. I've noticed something amazing when I do prison ministry. Mothers visit their children who are incarcerated in a far greater number than fathers do. Why? Because that mother's love is unconditional. You know, when we look at the life of Mary, the earthly mother of Jesus, what we've learned is that she had this love for her son. At the cross, Mary's there. We're not sure where Joseph was. Joseph, in his defense, may have passed away, but Mary is there at the cross, even at the death of Christ himself. So when we look at the mother's love, Mary wrote a song about her love for Christ and her love for God. Because of time, I'm going to have to move on, but I want to also drive home the point that we honor our mothers not only because of their love, but because of their life. Proverbs 31 is an amazing chapter that talks about the character traits of a godly woman. Proverbs 31:26 says that she is clothed with strength and with dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. You know, the best motivator of others is always to be one who is self-motivated. Do you want to be an encourager of others and a motivator of others? You know, I used to think my primary goal is to motivate my family, motivate my congregation, motivate the people I work with. And I discovered, no, my primary motivation is to keep myself motivated. Do what's right, be determined to do what's right. And when I am doing that, then a product of that is that I can motivate others. You see, you can't motivate others until you have been motivated yourself. So here we discover that she's not worried about the future. This godly Proverbs 31 woman, she is not worried about the future. She is strong and she is prepared. She is motivated. She's organized. Proverbs 31:13 and 15. She selects wool and flax and works eagerly with her hands. She's like the merchant ship. She's bringing her food from afar. She gets up early while it's still night. She provides food for her family. She's an amazing businesswoman. She's ambitious and she knows what she's doing. She gets up early and she gets right to her work. Not only is she a motivator and not only is she an organizer, but she's also a mentor. Proverbs 31, verses 26 to 31. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instructions are on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her husband, and she does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful, beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate. Amazing when you think about it. We just spelled out the word mom. She is a motivator, she is an organizer, and she is a mentor. She excels in communication. This is what I hope that you feel about your mom, your wife, the mother of your children. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful. It can be deceptive, but be realistic. Beauty doesn't last forever. What really matters? Follow the woman who fear the Lord. She's the one that you should be praising. Honor her for all the works of her hands. What a wonderful reminder that is to us today. Now, there is a recent New York Times article that had this following title: America's mothers are in crisis. Is anybody listening to them? The article pointed out to other headlines that report the theme like a drumbeat. Working moms are not okay. A few years ago, we came through to the pandemic. The pandemic tripled the anxiety and depression symptoms among new mothers. Working mothers are reaching the breaking point. You can also see the problem in the numbers. Almost 1 million mothers have left the workforce, with minority and single moms among the hardest hit. In 2020, almost 1 in 4 children experienced food insecurity. Philip Fisher, a professor of psychology who runs a national survey on the impact of the pandemic on families with young children, notes that the stressors on mothers are magnified by other issues: poverty, race, having special needs children, and being a single parent. Fisher told the New York Times, "People are having a hard time making ends meet. That's making parents stressed out, and that causes kids to be stressed out. And we know from all the science that level of stress has a lasting impact on brain development, learning, and physical health. Almost 70% of mothers say that they worry and their stress has damaged their health." The Times wanted to give moms across the country the opportunity to screen it out. So they set up a phone line. Hundreds responded with shouts, cries, guttural yells, and lots of words that we won't repeat. A 30-year-old mother with 2 children under 4 captured what many moms are feeling with this message. "I don't know how to feel sane again. I'm just stuck in the position for God knows how much longer." I want to encourage you to honor your mother because of the sacrifice that she has made for you, how she has invested her life in you through the years. She chose to bring you into this world. I've talked to a lot of moms who have children that have ended up being incarcerated. That's one of the unique privileges that I've had as being a chaplain for so many years within the penal system, that I do get to talk to parents of children who are incarcerated. And oftentimes these moms will call me and they take a lot of guilt and they feel somewhat responsible for their son who is incarcerated. And as I talk with them, they acknowledge that there's some shortcomings in their lives. But I've also noticed as I speak with them that every one of them wanted to do what was right. They may not have had the resources to do what's right, but they really wanted to do right. In the depths of their hearts, they wanted to do the right thing, but they struggled. They didn't have the know-how. So I want to encourage you to pray for your mom. Let me give you some tips about how you can pray for your mom. Number 1, pray that she will have a sense of self-worth. Proverbs 31, verse number 10 says, "A wife of noble character who can find? She is worth far more than rubies." A wife of noble character. She is priceless. She is worth more than money in a bank. So pray that your mom or the wife of your children realizes how much she really is worth. Number 2, pray that she can laugh at the days to come. Proverbs 15:13 says, "A glad heart makes a cheerful face, but a sorrow of hearts crushes the spirit." Maybe the most important thing you can do today is bring joy to your wife or to your mother and encouraging her to laugh at the times to come. You know that expression, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy? Well, won't you pray that your mom can enjoy today, that she can laugh at the days to come, because she knows that you're in her corner, that you love her, and that you appreciate her. And then lastly, pray that she will receive the honor that she deserves. Proverbs 31:25 says, "Her children arise and call her blessed." Honor your mother today. encourage her today. If you are blessed to have a mom that's still alive, my mom is well into her 80s, thankfully still alive. And so I'm going to get to see her in just less than a week, and I'm going to have that opportunity to spend some time with her. I can't wait to do that, to honor her. Well, thank you so much for joining me today in the broadcast. God bless you. Have a wonderful day. If you'd like to hear this broadcast again, you can have a free download at buzzsprout.com, Hope for Your Heart with Pastor Calvin Corbett. Or you can listen on Amazon, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. You can also tune in to my YouTube channel, Hope for Your Heart with Pastor Calvin Corbett.
Hickory Ridge Community Church is located at 3320 Battlefield Boulevard South in Chesapeake, Virginia. Sunday service times are 9 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. We'd love for you to join us. For more information, go to hrcc7.org. And remember, no matter what you're going through, in Jesus Christ there is always hope for you.